Medicare for all. Now, this is a segment from BSDNC. I know I subjected you guys a lot of stuff from corporate media, and for that, I'm so sorry. We're only going to watch half of this video, okay? But it's about discussing the American healthcare system in the wake of the United Healthcare CEO assassination. So this will change them in ways that I think we haven't seen before, somebody is saying. So this is from Case Study QB. Shout out to him. So let's go ahead and play this video. We'll only watch a little bit of it because I'm going to play another video that will get you angry, and that might draw out a tear as well.
The targeted killing of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson unleashed a torrent of hate on the healthcare industry. Accusations that insurance companies prey on the sick and capitalize on suffering in the service of corporate profits. NBC News' Sam Brock gathered some of that reaction.
I don't think anyone should feel bad about this.
From a shooter lookalike contest in New York City to critical comments online, as United Healthcare headquarters in Minnesota is now surrounded by temporary fencing and a police trailer.
Well, maybe don't treat people like numbers on a piece of paper, jackasses, okay? Maybe instead of being afraid of people and being scared of people, maybe look back at your policies. Hey, what did we do to cause people to be so angry at us? Oh, that's right. We screwed them right up the wazoo. Up the wazoo. The story of America's healthcare. Hey, folks, how do you feel about your healthcare? Do you like it? And everybody, no matter what generation you're part of, the color of your skin or who you worship, you could participate in this Democracy Now! Election. Type 1 for it's great, Kit. Type 2, it's not great. I hate it. I got stories to tell you. I could tell you some horror stories. You want that? I wonder how many 2s are going to be in the chat. Oh, boy, Jolly G. Williger.
Just a really small tidbit of what we're seeing out there online. Joining us now, president of the Center for Health and Democracy and former health insurance executive, Wendell Potter. He's also the author of Deadly Spin and senior national correspondent for HuffPost and author of The 10-Year War, Obamacare, and the Unfinished Crusade for Universal Coverage, Jonathan Cohn. Gentlemen, thank you. Jonathan, were you surprised how quickly this turned from what in the world happened to Brian Thompson to a large contingent of Americans coming out and saying he deserved it?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't surprised. I mean, look, let's be clear. I mean, you don't want to be celebrating somebody's murder. It doesn't justify it in any way. But anybody who's sort of observed the American healthcare system knows there's a lot of people very angry with the healthcare system. A lot of people who can't pay for their healthcare. They can't get the treatment they need. And a big reason why is that for a lot of people, especially people with serious medical issues, they have to go through prior authorizations. They have to figure out with their insurance company which doctors they need, which they don't. And when they try to get treatment, they run into these obstacles. The treatments get denied. They can try to appeal it. It takes a long time. Sometimes for some people, it's just a nuisance. For a lot of people, it's a really serious problem. It means they don't get the care they need. They have to pay these enormous bills out of pocket. It's incredibly frustrating. And in the worst cases, it's bad for their health. People are sick. They're suffering, maybe even dying because of this.
Yeah. Everybody has a story about dealing with insurance companies, and not many of those stories, Wendell, are happy stories. The perception is that these companies are not in it to care for people. It's not for the service. It's to squeeze as much money as they possibly can out of individuals. And
say it with me, folks. Duh. Well, no, duh. Really? 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 Wow, I didn't see that. Well done, corporate media. But I remember throughout 2016 and the 2020 Democratic primaries, in which you guys were saying what Bernie Sanders is saying is really, really bad. We can't have Medicare for all in this country. It's too expensive. Oh, we got money for war, money to bail out banks, money to bail out Wall Street. Corporate media, stop being stupid. MSNBC, this is why you're losing views. This is why you're tanking.
When push comes to shove, when those individuals need that money back, to delay in order for the person to give up or to get more money out of them. Is that an incorrect perception of how?
That's a dumb question. That was a dumb question. I really hate stupid. Never mind. You know what? I'm not angry.
How the industry works?
No, it's not at all. It is the correct perception, it is the reality. And it's notable that this murder, this corporate assassination, took place in Manhattan on the day that United Health was holding its investor day. This assailant had to know that was significant, because the reason why we have these delays, why we have this challenge that so many people with health insurance have in getting the care that they need, is because of the slavish devotion of these companies to Wall Street. They have to meet Wall Street's profit expectations every 3 months, and to show them that they are managing expenses. And that means there's greater and greater use of prior authorization, higher out-of-pocket costs before their coverage kicks in, inadequate provider networks. Delays and denials are what people encounter these days increasingly if they have health insurance. And I think it's been just below the surface. I knew when I was in the industry, people despise these companies. They hate dealing with them because they're difficult to deal with. And often they get a no. And it's so hard to figure out what to do when you get that no.
Is this the kind of thing, Wendell, that it's inspiring a conversation out there? I mean, it's got to be eye-opening for the insurance companies. Is it eye-opening for the insurance companies? Would they be surprised at this sort of reaction?
They're not going to be surprised, but this will change them in ways that I think we've never seen anything before do that. They've operated with impunity, and they felt that this rage could always be contained.
Why have they operated with impunity? Why have they done so? Why? I'll tell you why. It's because they bought off our politicians. They bought off these jag-off people who then implement policies that screw us all over. Okay, so that's why they're operating with impunity. That's what's happening right now. And they're acting surprised. Why this is happening?
And that they've spent so much money on propaganda. I used to lead a propaganda shop, on campaign donations, on lobbying expenses, on events like Investor Day to persuade Wall Street we've got this covered. There's a day of reckoning that is happening right now, and I think this has triggered that. This has given people an opportunity or a reason to vent on social media like I've never seen before. It's going to change the way they do business in certain ways. They're going to become more insular. But even back then, I wouldn't tell people what I did for a living. You can be certain these folks are not going to do that either.
Jonathan, do you think this might inspire a change?
I mean, it's hard to know. I mean, we've actually been having versions of this fight for decades, and Wendell knows this as well as anybody. This fight came up in the 1990s. It came up in the fight when there was the fight about the Affordable Care Act. All of this is taking the context of a much broader political fight over how much power to give private insurance companies, the for-profit industry, over how we give out health care in this country. And when we get to the point of a political debate, of course, these companies will weigh in on that political debate. They have a lot of power.
And they do. I want to pause here for a second because it's nothing. What you're hearing is nothing new. But I want to time travel. Who wants to time travel 3 years ago? Who wants to time travel 3 years ago? I haven't played this video in a very long time. But when Force the Vote was happening, Matt Orfala did a mashup. My story. Your story. This is our story. You might see things that you are very familiar with. Maybe this might cause you to cry a little because you know about it, or you know it happened to somebody that you love, or you went through it yourself. Corporate media is going to wonder, well, gee, how bad has the healthcare insurance industry really been? Well, it's been pretty good for you, corporate media, because, folks, listen, they buy ad space, right?
My mom actually died when I was younger. As she was about to leave her kids and her husband, my mom was worried about having to get treatment because it would have bankrupted our family.
Our insurance company refused my claims.
They'll gladly let a vulnerable boy and his family suffer.
I actually used to be a fiscal conservative, diehard Republican, and I lost everything.
This is my sister Diana, and the medications for her autism are more than $2,000 a month. The same medication in another country is $14.
Force a vote for Medicare for all.
We are the only developed nation on earth that does not have some form of universal health care.
I went to the emergency room. They said that I needed to follow up with my doctor, and I can't go see a doctor. I don't have health insurance. I can't pay this bill.
I've been working in a nursing home about 5-6 years now, and they're telling me I don't deserve health care. I'm going tomorrow to a nursing home with active COVID patients.
Force the vote.
Hey, Ford, that shouldn't have happened to you. Okay? That should not have happened to anybody. It shouldn't happen. No one should be going through any suffering, okay? No one should suffer.
There be a vote for Medicare for all.
If we had a Medicare for all system, my dad could have just gone to the actual doctor and they would have caught the cancer earlier.
Force the vote now.
Hashtag force the vote.
People don't go to the hospital because they don't have insurance.
Force the vote.
We need Medicare for all.
By the time I had some idea of what to do to treat my illness, I could no longer afford to treat my illness.
Force the vote now.
I am one of the many millions of Americans who have lost their health care.
If you actually care about defending the human rights of Americans,
force the vote.
I got stabbed in the chest, and their answer for me getting attacked was to charge me $270,000.
Force the vote.
I had a bone disease, and my doctor goes, "You're not making bone properly." And I was like, "Well, should I take a Viagra?" He's like, "No, it's not."
One day I stepped off a step the wrong way, and my spine collapsed. The insurance company wouldn't pay.
Force the vote.
My father had health insurance, and we had to fight the health insurance company to try to get to pay for his life-saving medication. And I was sitting in a hearing where one of the Blue Cross Blue Shield representatives was sitting in front of me laughing. And I leaned forward and reminded him that the dying man that you're laughing about is my father.
That's not.
Our politicians aren't going to help us. They're not going to be there. They're not going to do it. It's got to be us. Citizen ballot initiatives. And no parades in front of Trump Tower. No. We got to go to their offices. We got to protest. We got to make our voices heard. And we got to start taking action and start actually implementing our own power. We're not doing it for ourselves. We're doing it for those that aren't here.
Right.
Force the vote.
Force it.
Both Republicans and Democrats support Medicare for all.
Force the vote.
Vast majority of our fellow citizens support it.
We expect our politicians to
Force the vote.
And if the politicians aren't willing to demand it, then they should get out of the way.
Force a vote.
I've had enough.
Force the vote.
If not now, when?
Force the vote.
They ran on Medicare for all. The squad needs to do their job.
Hashtag force the vote.
Screw all these partisan politics. It's time to start fighting for the people.
Please force the vote.
Not tomorrow, now.
I don't want to see any more theater or Instagram posts about how much you're doing for us if you're not using your power in a real way.
Get things done.
Medicare for all would change my life.
Force the vote.
Power doesn't concede anything to polite requests.
The people have spoken.
If they don't give us what we're demanding, we need to vote them all out.
I am amongst an entire family of Republicans, and even they support Medicare for all.
I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. I have medical coverage, but hey, at any time, just like
You angry yet? Oh, but I hear people say, you got to give AOC and the squad time. They got to be pragmatic. It's a word I've learned to hate. It's a word I've learned to despise, pragmatic. We've all been polite. We've all been very kind. All of you have. Hell, we've been very understanding. I think we've been more than understanding. And yet the establishment thinks that this is still A-okay. And they wonder why people are angry, or either that, why people would be little joyful for a certain incident that took place in New York City. Because people have been screwed over by these corporations that are in charge of our health care. We are numbers on a piece of paper to them. Blue Cross Blue Shield, United Healthcare. I say this not to upset you, but I'm telling you, the diehard honest truth. You watching Hard Lens Media right now, if you have health insurance, you are a number on a piece of paper to them. At any point in time, they can remove, delete you, or change you without your consent or support. And when you do need your help, or when you need their help, they have all the power in the world to really say no. And many of you have heard the word no. And when we've asked our politicians to do the right thing, well, they didn't tell us no. They just didn't do anything. I think that pretty much says a lot about them, right? Because when we want to force the vote, when we want them to fight, they don't do their job. We ask for a fight. So then what do? How do we fight back? How do we regain the momentum? How do we change things? And Biden has made it clear he's not for Medicare for all. I mean, already he's on the way out. I mean, he could have done something. They all could have truly done something if they wanted to, if they really cared about it. But they chose not to. So I want to pull up this rest of this video here just to hear a little bit more of what corporate media wants to say. Shout out again to Case Study QB. I don't know how you sit through it, buddy.
And what, I think has happened in the past, at least I've observed, is there tends to be a reaction right away. There tends to be a sort of promises of change. But then over time, we see the behavior slip back to what it was.
The politics of this I find really interesting because the number of people that I've heard from regarding this and what I've been able to just see online, it is a broad swath of Americans, people who come from all walks of life, excuse me, including a lot of doctors who have just a lot of hate for the healthcare industry and how they personally experience it and what they witness either in emergency rooms or just from their daily care, what they can get covered, what they can't get covered. The stress and the sometimes trauma of having to deal with the insurance companies separate from having to try to care from the patients. The politics of it, because there's so much anger. You're talking about maybe just trying to change it for a moment and then hoping that people forget. This doesn't seem like it's something that's so easy to forget because of the daily interactions, Jonathan, that people have with healthcare industry, with insurance companies. Right now, there's somebody, probably thousands of people on the phone with their insurance company arguing about coverage.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is something anybody who's had to deal with any kind of serious medical problem almost certainly has had to deal with firsthand. I mean, there's a real unhappiness out there. It creates a real anger. The hard part is when you actually get to doing something about it, and then it gets to become a complicated political fight. And that's really when these companies are able, and not just the insurance companies, by the way, it's all the players in the healthcare system, are able to sort of throw up resistance and make it harder to actually build a consensus towards some kinds of change.
Yes, the consensus to change. But when we ask for change, when we ask for some kind of help, when we raise our banners, we get platitudes.
The Democratic Party does not do more unless it is pushed. So we need to push them. And they don't like it. I think I annoy them, but but that is our job. That's our job. Force it to happen. Do not trust any political party to automatically work in your interest.
I call on everybody in independent media to join this mission.
Force it to happen.
Force the Congress to show which side are they really on. No vote for Nancy Pelosi unless Medicare for all is put on the House floor for a vote.
Start bringing the ruckus on the Democratic Party.
I think I want to end this on a humorous note. I want to end this on a humorous note, at least, for everybody to hear, for all of you to hear, at least.
You know what's annoying me about this kid who killed this CEO is none of these news programs are talking about the incredible lack of empathy from the general public about this because of how these insurance companies treat people when they are at their most vulnerable, after we've all given them our money every fucking month and now we finally need you and all you do is deny us. And then these pussies and all of these things are taking the pictures of their CEOs off their websites. I got to be honest with you, okay? I love that fucking CEOs are fucking afraid right now. You should be. By and large, you're all a bunch of selfish, greedy fucking pieces of shit. And a lot of you are mass murderers. You just don't pull the trigger. That's why it looks clean. That's why these people look, oh my God, oh, he was just, walking into a hotel. It's like, okay, but what was his job? What did he do? What was the results of it?
What was the results? Well, remember, he's a CEO. That means he also had to fly over to Washington, D.C. and tell the people he had in his back pocket, I mean, the politicians, our leaders, what to do. For all of you to remember this lesson, 99% of the time, your favorite Democratic or Republican lawmaker is on the phone calling their donors for more money so they could get ready to run for the next election, so they get elected into office, and then write policies to benefit their donor. And the healthcare insurance industry, just like the prison industrial complex, military industrial complex, APAC with the babysitters, they write policies for them, man. This is how the game works. Beep, boop, beep. That's how the game works. And I'm very sorry to let all of you in on this, but it's the truth of it. 2025, this case is going to be going forward. But we cannot let the talk for Medicare for all die out. Remember the power we had was forced to vote in the March for Medicare for all. Remember what we did? We did it without them. We did ask them for their help, but they showed us their hand. Both Democratic and Republican lawmakers, including the also fantastic 15 congressmen and women who are part of the Progressive Caucus. They could have been a voting bloc if they wanted to, but they let us behind. They failed us. We don't need them, but we have to use our power. Right now, this is an opportunity for all of us to step up and do the right thing. We're not doing it for ourselves. We're doing it for those that aren't here with us. Don't let the fight for Medicare for all die out.